Thanks, everyone. We're going to get to the deck, have a lot of important information. If you submit questions, it will go into the chat. We're going to be kind of tacking through those. But what you might find is that some of your questions might be answered in some of the content here in the meetings. Hopefully, we do answer your questions, give you some really important updates, some of which are updates from this week. Once again, for those just joining, Tim Steed, Assistant General Manager here at OCEA. Let's talk a little about what we got set up. But before we do that, we have to kick it over to the president of OCEA, our super steward, and that's Leticia Guerrero. Letty, who's with CB, please welcome us.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today during your lunch. I promise you this is going to be a really good meeting, so thanks for making the sacrifice and joining us. There's a lot of information. To say that this machine has been cranked up and is moving is falling short because we are. We have a lot planned and we need every single one of you. If there's a moment where your voice is needed, and we absolutely need it, it's now. It's now, guys. So thank you for joining us. I love that I have so many of my peers in the county for this meeting today, and let's keep on going, guys. It's getting good. It's getting good. Here we go.
Thank you, Letty.
Right on, Letty. Let's see, what do we got in store for you today? We're going to go over a quick recap of what's been occurring at the negotiations table. We're going to give you insight on not just the county's proposal, but also the union's proposal, so you can see what we're fighting for at the table. We have done some county budget and finance analysis that we want to share with you that's going to have an impact on our bargaining position, what the upcoming week's strategy and goals are going to look like, and then what our next steps are. So that's what we have in store for us today. And it's always a good reminder to level set, right? We are talking about the number one thing that we do as a union, which is negotiate the terms and conditions of our MOU. A union would not exist if it wasn't for the contract between the workers and the employer. So when we say it's the most important thing we do, it's not hyperbolic. It is the most important thing that our union does. So the chief spokesperson for the most important thing that we do at the table is OCEA's operations manager, Veronica Rodarte. So Veronica, I'm going to kick it over to you so you can start going over a little bit of what we've had in store and what those proposals look like. So kick it over to Veronica.
Thank you, Tim. Hi, everyone. As Tim said, I'm Veronica Rodarte. I'm operations manager here at OCEA, but I also have the honor of serving as the chief spokesperson advocating on behalf of all of you. So I'm going to share a lot of information with you all today. Probably going to go really quick because I know we have limited time, but we're going to share as much as we possibly can without jeopardizing our strategic position in negotiations. So we are going to tell you exactly where the county is at, where we're at on some of our proposals. A quick timeline to get us started. Recap. We've been meeting with the county since May. We started in May. There was a lot of uncertainty prior to that with Michelle Aguirre, so we did start in May. We've had 5 meetings since then. And really in all of those meetings, there has been very little movement from the county. They came in at 0, as our email said. They are still at 0%. The Board of Supervisors, which is the governing authority of the county and the ones who provide the authority to the staff that is at the bargaining table, they have not met since June 23rd. So the movement has slowed down to a trickle, little drops of water falling even then, since the board has not met. And also the county is in negotiations with every single union, and every single union is in the same position right now where they're waiting for the Board of Supervisors to act and to give that authority. So jumping over, want to review what the county proposals are. As of yesterday, we did meet with them yesterday, so we'll jump right in. So the county is proposing a 1-year term, and they are proposing 0 in wage increases. They're wanting to give you all just a lump sum that after taxes is probably about $500. So that's the extent of their monetary. Holiday comp, they're trying to change who qualifies for that, essentially making the holiday provision in the MOU very weak, where people would be working on holidays and not getting compensated in the same way. They've identified it as a potential savings area where if they eliminate holiday comp, they can save money. We're not interested in that. They want to pay out anyone with 40 hours or less of annual leave. They want to pay that out. They also have an interesting proposal for the disciplinary procedure, where right now it requires that they deliver documents in person. One of their initial proposals made it seem like they just want to email them, so not even giving people the courtesy of meeting with them as they're disciplining them. So firing people via email, that's the county's plan. They, not surprisingly, because this comes up every time, but they want to eliminate the employee married to employee benefit for medical benefits. That would be a huge financial hit for hundreds of members. And what we're calling the bilingual pay scheme, where if you look at it too fast, you think it's a good thing. And then when you actually look at it, you realize that it's a terrible thing. So that's what's on their proposal. And I do want to highlight the bilingual one particularly, and also recognize that this is a provision in our MOU that applies to thousands of members within the county. This is the highest there's various specialty pays, but out of all the specialty pays, given how diverse Orange County is, this is the pay that most of our members, a huge majority of our members, receive. So the county is proposing an increase to bilingual pay. So you can see the increase from 40 to 70 cents, but there's a key change in that last sentence. For all hours actually paid, the county is proposing to change it to hours worked. So this is for the base level bilingual. The next slide. For the exceptional, it's known as exceptional now, they're calling it technical. They're proposing an increase from 70 cents to $1.15. Again, the key change from hours paid to hours worked. That's a loss. Next slide. Counselors, this special pay where they were getting more than the regular would be eliminated. They'd just be getting what the regular is. This one right here, the social worker series has, I believe, close to 2,000 employees. They would not receive an additional penny in bilingual. In fact, they would be losing money with the county's bilingual proposal, because the amount would be $1.15 for the technical, which is where the county proposes to move this classification series to. So instead of getting an increase for the largest classification in our bargaining units, they're proposing to cut money from them. And we had them do some scenarios. At a minimum, just by changing it from hours paid to hours worked, that would result in hundreds of dollars of losses for that very critical classification. Additionally, so not only is there loss for many members, but they also want to make every single person who receives bilingual take a test. So if you have not tested within the last year or two, you will have to take this test from a company that they've identified. I shared this with our bargaining team. I'm going to share it here because it emphasizes just how ridiculous this test is. I'm a native Spanish speaker, grew up speaking it, took it in school from middle school all the way to college, minored in Spanish literature in college. I took the test. I missed one question. I barely qualified for the technical designation as the county is proposing, which means that test is completely flawed because it is not reflective of the language, the type of languages and the communication style that is common in California. It was a very technical, formal Spain, European Spanish that did not reflect the reality of the members that you all deal with. I can only assume that for Arabic, that for Vietnamese, Chinese, Farsi, for all the other languages, that the test is just as flawed. So the summary of the bilingual, they want to make everyone test. They're making it seem like it's an increase, but in reality, it's not an increase. It would reduce the benefit for thousands of members. And they're targeting classifications, social workers, for extra punishment by not offering them a single penny increase to their bilingual. So jumping over, I do want to kind of share where we are, what our initial proposal, what our position has been related to our proposals. So we have on the table a 3-year term. So we're interested in getting a longer term contract that'll give us some kind of labor stability, some ability to plan, some certainty in times of great uncertainty right now. There's a lot going on in the world, and why not have something that we know it's guaranteed and is coming? Our initial proposal includes 18% in wage increases across the 3 years. We're proposing to increase the deferred comp match by 1%, and that applies to PEPRA employees, which make up about 60% of our membership. We're also proposing increases to healthcare leave. County's pretty low compared to other agencies. We also have various special assignment pay proposals that are intended to just reflect the reality of recruitment and retention challenges in certain areas, certain classifications, certain agencies. And we also are proposing some language improvements to classification and compensation studies. We have a provision in the MOU that kind of guarantees that those are done, but it doesn't add timing or timely updates. So we want to tighten that language up a little bit so that we ensure that they're moving along. Additionally, so we also are proposing, this one seems like a no-brainer, but the county has so far said no. We want to memorialize in the MOU the way that it says a meets receives 2 steps. We want to memorialize that an exceeds receives a minimum of 3 steps. We're also proposing to increase PIP back to 40 hours. We're proposing language related to teleworking. So there's a policy within the county, but we are proposing to add that into our MOU so that we have additional protections that memorialize that it is an option for county employees to telework. We also were thinking ahead. We know that AI is changing and it's changing faster than any of us can keep up. So we have proposed language that offers job protection so that AI isn't going to come in and take over everyone's job and kind of give hogwash as results. So we want to talk to the county. We want to be part of that conversation to ensure that all jobs are protected and that the services that are being provided are done correctly. We're proposing bereavement leave expansion, identifying that maybe bereavement leave as it is doesn't necessarily always cover all the important individuals in a person's family or unit of support. We are also proposing staffing enhancement language, but more so intended to protect regarding extreme vacancies in certain programs or units. Right now, there is state law that requires the county to meet with us and notify us if vacancies fall beyond 20% by bargaining unit. But we know that the reality in a employer such as the county that's so large, the reality is that this is going to happen more so by program, by department, where there is going to be a unit where a few people leave at once. And then what does that mean for the employees that remain? 3 people leave, it's a unit of 5. What happens to that work? So that's also something that we're discussing with the county. And very important, we also are proposing a parity proposal. We're not the unwanted stepchild. We deserve the same treatment that other unions are receiving within the county. So that's a critical part of our proposal as well. So I've shared where the county is, where we're at, what our initial proposal included. We have, in the 5 meetings, we have reached some tentative agreements, some of them that are beneficial, but I do want to emphasize nothing is final until everything is final. So while we have tentatively agreed to these are not happening until everything else is done. We have managed to secure increases to personal business leave, so from 40 to 50 hours. So that's more flexibility for you to be able to use your healthcare leave. On the work week language in the MOUs, we've managed to add 3-day 12-hour shifts as an option memorialized in the MOU. For holidays, we have tentatively agreed to add 2 holidays, Farm Worker Day and Juneteenth. So that's a huge win because we've been trying to add holidays for a while now. For the healthcare professional unit, we're adding nursing assistants to be eligible for jail salary supplement pay, timekeeping cleanup. The old timekeeping system required that time be entered in increments of 15 minutes. OC time does not require that. So we're deleting that language from the MOU so that you can account for your time as it is and you don't have to lose or use your own balances for those extra minutes. And then we're reviewing all the side letter agreements that we have with the county to determine which ones need to be incorporated into the MOU. Slide. So I covered a lot of information because it's a lot that's happened in the last couple months, but I would say in the last year and a half, really, of what has happened. So when we come into negotiations as the chief spokesperson, I don't come just making stuff up. We do the research, we bring all the facts, all the justifications as to why we're asking for these things. Last year, around the health fair time, we did the member survey. We received the most responses we have ever received in terms of bargaining surveys. We read through every single one, reviewed all of them to identify what the members' priorities were, and that's what helped our bargaining team build that initial proposal that we reviewed. We've also reviewed the vacancy rate and position deletions. The county, when they gave their financial presentation, they touted how much savings they had obtained by deleting positions. What does a deleted position mean? That means that someone left and that position was never filled again, and the people that remained had to do that work. So it wasn't that the work went away, it was that the work was added to employee Susie Q over here and employee John over here. They had to take on that extra work. And where did the savings go? We don't know. They're in reserves. So that's the information. That's how deep we've been diving. We hired Harvey M. Rose to conduct a financial review, tell us where the county has money, identify areas, looking at their massive budget that if anyone tries to look at it, you're just going to see thousands of lines and you're not going to understand any of it. So we hire the professionals to review that for us and tell us everything that we need to know. We also looked at the regional market. So we have about 75 benchmark classifications that we do a compensation study on in preparation for negotiations every single time. Same classifications, same counties, just to give us an idea of how the market is progressing. We look at the top 10 counties in California, looking at what their wage increase patterns were for past negotiations. So we come prepared with all of that information. And then, of course, we look at the cost of living. We look at the consumer price index, CPI, for the local area, just to see how that is doing to inform also what the needs of our members are. So there is the full recap of everything that's going on. I'm going to turn it over to CB to fill you in a little bit on what has been going on outside of the table and why the progress has been slowed.
Thank you, Veronica. And I got to tell you that was a very detailed, technical look at where we're at. So thank you for all of that. And before I jump in, I just want to recognize that in the participant log, I noticed that members of other unions have joined us. So in addition to the hundreds of OCEA represented folks on the line, we welcome members of other unions to get some information, if you will, from us, and happy to do that. So yes, we've met with the county 5 times, started back in May, but CB, why is it the 30th of July and why are things going so slow? I'm going to break it down for you and share with you a little bit of history and some dynamics particularly at the Board of Supervisor level. So let's look at the players and the county's historical playbook. You know, for many years, the county has been led from a staff perspective by the finance folks. We had an era where Frank Kim, former CFO, became the CEO. He was a pretty darn good CEO, but he was also birthed during the bankruptcy era. He's financially very conservative, and he held a pretty tight grip on the Board of Supervisors. And through his era, particularly as CEO, he groomed Michelle Aguirre to be the CFO. And as over the last year or so, she ascended to be Frank's successor as the CEO. She too came through the bankruptcy era. She was with the county for in like 34, 35 years. And her entire perception of how the county should operate was very much groomed by the bankruptcy and by a process that I will get into in a minute called the Strategic Financial Plan. So to say that the county budget and finance team doesn't have a tight grip on the Board of Supervisors is really an understatement. And it's worth noting how the county budget and finance team and the CEO team attempts to shape the board's view of the financial reality of the county. And it's called the Strategic Financial Plan. Now, that sounds all fancy and good, but essentially this is a roadmap to claim scarcity where we don't have the revenues to meet the ongoing expenses. Therefore, we have a crisis. Now, you might be saying, all right, CB, that sounds like 2025, 2026. No, folks, this has been the process, the playbook for the last 20 years. And so what happens is every year the staff creates the strategic financial plan that creates a financial crisis that shapes the budget, and then ultimately the adopted budget is done, and then you've got to measure out ultimately how does the county perform against that budget. So let me show you some statements, and in particular I'm gonna date stamp some of these. Okay, this is strategic financial plan from 2005, right? 21 years ago. Cost surpass estimated revenues, and that's going to impact the county's ability to maintain services. What did they say in 2006? Potential issues that may impact the county's limited resources over the next 5 years. Well, things didn't change, right? So what did they say in 2007? Oh, essentially the same thing. Potential issues that may impact the county's limited resources over the next 5 years. Wait a minute. Limited resources over the next 5 years? You said exactly the same thing the year before. That's their playbook. Let's look at a couple of more, Tim. 2011, revenue growth will not keep up with projected growth in expenditures. The level of growth does not allow for increased levels of service. 2016. Then what? 2019, the projected level of future growth does not allow for material increases in levels of service. Let's go to last year, 2025. Funding sources are projected to be insufficient to cover department-based budgets to maintain current levels of service. So when we call this a playbook, it's because they are executing the same plays every single year using the same language about scarcity, lack of revenue, and the need to hold down expenditures. So what does that produce? Let me tell you, it produces a governing body, which is the 5 elected supervisors who do rely on staff, particularly the finance folks, to help shape their view of the financial circumstance in which ultimately the politicians have to give direction. So let's look at the current state of affairs of the Board of Supervisors, right? There are 5 elected politicians. They are certainly divided and distracted. There's certainly their own personalities, and there's certainly partisanship there. Now, I would tell you, amongst the 5, we certainly have those who stand shoulder to shoulder with us. through not just through bargaining, but every day. Re-election elect. We just got Supervisor Sarmiento re-elected, so now he'll serve another 4-year term. That's great for OCEA. We do have a re-election campaign in November for District 5, Vice Chair Foley, and we have an election in District 4 to replace current Chair Doug Chafee. So to say that the election cycle is not impacting us, that would be an absolute wrong statement and an understatement. So we have to keep our eyes on that. But certainly there are members of the board who are focused on re-election and the election cycle. Okay, Timbo? The board they are not finance experts. And it's important to note that they rely on the internal subject matter experts who are finance experts. And so, again, the budget and the finance folks do have a significant influence on the Board of Supervisors. Now, with all of this, what has happened? That's right, almost nothing. So when Veronica said the movement from the county has been minimal, yeah, even though we've reached a few tentative agreements and some of those items are good, like holidays, but we have not seen substantive movement from the county. And we're now on July the 30th. We were hoping that during this period of the board not meeting, i.e. them being dark, that we would have gotten a special meeting scheduled to specifically talk labor. Because the other point that Veronica made was that every union in the county is up and every union is beyond expiration. And so we were hoping we'd get a special meeting, but to no avail. So to say that the county board is paralyzed, it's absolutely true. You've got a CEO transition where Michelle has now transitioned into retirement, and we have a new CEO, Casey Rostenberg. There seems to be some optimism that with this transition, that Casey will be able to set a new tone, and maybe a tone that of wanting to get a deal done. So yeah, fingers crossed that will happen. Now, we have to shake it up. Now, why is that? Because number one, like I said, this is July the 30th. The next Board of Supervisors meeting, when they go into closed session, is August the 11th. And this will be the first meeting for them in 7 weeks. And it'll be the first meeting with KC. And hopefully, yeah, that's a turning of the page and a new tone. Now, our next session is the next day, August the 12th. And we have sent the message to already 2 board offices, and we have 3 more scheduled in the next week. And we call that a boardwalk. And when we do a boardwalk meeting with each supervisor, we're telling them just how critical August the 11th is, and that we need substantial progress and movement, or OCEA as an organization is going to have to escalate. And so, yes, we're looking for big movement on the 12th, and we've told them that if we do not see substantial movement, then not only do we have to escalate and mobilize our members, but we also have to take our message out to the media. And we were very blunt with them that it is in your hands to jumpstart where we're at, to put us on a path to where we can reach a deal. And it ain't where we're at. So we're in the process of shaking things up. And Tim is going to jump in here and talk about what those steps look like in terms of our internal organizing and building power, so that at the bargaining table, we can deliver on what we know that all of y'all need. So Tim, take it away, buddy.
Thanks, CB, and thanks, Veronica. Yeah, as you can see, and definitely want to refer folks back to our website. We have some other meetings that have occurred before this that might provide some additional context to some of the things we quickly went over in some of our preparation. So I do want to make that plug to our website if you want to catch up on some of the previous meetings that maybe you have not had a chance to catch up on. Again, Tim Steed, OCEA's Assistant General Manager. We heard too about where the county's at, where we're at. We have a bunch of incredible proposals, things that are going to enhance public service, things that are going to make a difference in your take-home pay, that's going to make it easier for you to spend time with your family. The county has non-creative ideas. They have ideas for takeaways. So the difference between our approaches could not be any more stark. And I want to reiterate what happens on these coming weeks, particularly August 12th, is going to set the stage of whether or not we have to escalate. But as you've heard, we haven't just been twiddling our thumbs. We've been having ongoing escalations. We've had our last membership meeting was 2 months ago, where we had between participation and watching the video, our members are engaged like they've never been. We went and spoke publicly at the County Board of Supervisors while we were in negotiations with our leadership to put them on notice that we're paying attention and that we're watching their finances. As CB has indicated, we have met individually with members of the Board of Supervisors where we're bringing the receipts and letting them know directly so that there is no doubt about it where we stand and what OCEA members must have in this contract negotiations. So if they don't move on August 12th, right? And that's a big if. Now, we hope that the new CEO is going to change the tone, that there's going to be creativity, and we can start a usual negotiations process that so far has been delayed. But in the union movement, we don't sit around and hope, we prepare. So if they don't move on August 12th, what are we going to do about it? We have identified the August 25th Board of Supervisors meeting, which will be the next meeting after August 11th, to hold a rally and press event at the County Administration Building from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. And we're going to ask you a question here in a few minutes or in a few seconds about whether or not you and your coworkers would turn out to such a rally. We have a strength as a labor union, and that is our strength in numbers. It's not the people at the table who are negotiating. It's not the CB Employees Association or the Tim Steed Employees Association. It is the Orange County Employees Association. And when we can leverage our greatest strength, our strength in numbers, you better believe that we are going to be able to move an employer. So we're going to ask you in a few seconds about that turnout. So if and when we have to make that escalation, we're also going to invite members of the news media so that we can do what? We can show the strategic financial report audit and our other financial audits to prove publicly and push back against this county narrative that they don't have money, because we know they have money. In 16 of 20 years, the county has higher revenues than were projected. They've grown their reserves by 230% over 21 years while not allowing or investing in services and the people who provide them. The reserves have grown in years even when OCEA members have had pretty decent contracts. So we will release this to the full public and to the media, as well as our Harvey M. Rose financial review. Now, Harvey M. Rose isn't a dude named Harvey M. Rose. It's a financial firm that specializes in public sector financial accounting. And what they've identified, in addition to the reserves that the county maintains, they have additional buckets of reserves that total over $423 million that, as of this day, with a quick policy change, can be available for raises for OCEA members and other county workers. So as I said, we know we got the money, we know what they got, but again, it comes down to if they don't move on the 12th, will we move on August 25th? So I want to ask a question right now, and Michelle's going to put it in the survey. Yes or no? Will you, if we need to, would you participate in a rally at the Civic Center on August 25th between 11:30 and 1 p.m.? So as folks are filling out this survey, and be honest with yourself, right? If you're saying yes, and you don't mean yes, we're going to build some big plans around that to turn out. And if you are a no, hey, sometimes your best intention to be there, but it might be your kid's first day of school, right? It might be, you might have a surgery scheduled or a wisdom teeth pulled, right? So understand that life gets in the way, but also know that in this movement, usually power doesn't concede anything without a demand, right? So power has never given up anything without a demand, and it's never going to stop. So if we want to shake things up, and again, this is contingent upon the county not moving. What I would love to tell you in a few weeks is stand down. The county is the CEO, the new CEO and the county board is talking a different tune. Things are going a lot smoother now. Stand down. Let's see how this goes. But in the event that we don't need to, this data is going to be incredibly instructive for how we move forward. So thanks, everyone. I see a lot of people participating. We'll continue to run that here for a few minutes. But while we do, we'll get now to some of our final stuff. Again, if you want to receive text messages, I know some of you join this meeting because you do receive our texts. Text the word negotiations to the number 94033. Check out our website for our whole county negotiations. We have meetings like this. We'll be living there in perpetuity. Make sure you're getting our emails. And as folks, as I stop kind of sharing my screen, I do want to kick it over to particularly CB and Veronica. You saw yesterday, we sent a quick email out about the WRAP and Part-Time Plus program. If you haven't had a chance to see that email, we do want to just give you a quick heads up on that, because I do imagine some of the questions we have will be related to both of those items. And then I'll do my best in the meantime to go through the chat and start teeing up folks' questions that have gone through. So thanks everyone for participating. I'm going to turn it back over to CB and Veronica for just that quick update on that.
Right on. Thank you, Tim. And first and foremost, I want to already thank the hundreds of people who already clicked yes and participated in our action survey. So thank you. Thank you. Let your yes mean yes. And if we're out there on the 25th, look forward to seeing all of you. Quick word on WRAP and Part-Time Plus, and Veronica can augment or tell me I said something wrong. But yeah, one of the things that we had heard was that even though the Board of Supervisors had adopted, and I'm going to say a preliminary version of WRAP on June the 23rd, they still had not worked out some of the details, which prevented us from communicating because we didn't want to communicate something that was just wrong or incomplete. Wednesday, July 22nd is when we got the official notice from the county on their proposed WRAP, Retirement Assistance Program, and Part-Time Plus. And so we blasted out a communication yesterday to address why we had not communicated and the status of where we're at. And where we're at, candidly, is exactly what we put into that email. And so technically, we have now answered the county requesting to meet and confer, fancy way to say negotiate the terms and conditions of those programs, but we haven't met with them yet. And I got to tell you, and we've shared this with board offices as well, the gravest concern that we have on these programs is the position deletion. And you may have seen back in June where the county's initial version for WRAP had automatic and permanent deletions. And we were able to get that stricken from the program. And we know that there are a handful of folks who are now waiting for this program to be rolled out. And for those who may be on the cusp of retirement, yeah, it seems like a good deal. But we don't have assurances from the county that when a position is vacated, that it's not going to be deleted, and that the work is not simply going to fall to everyone else who remains. And I think we put this stat in the communication is that there are 1,187 OCEA represented county employees that are eligible for the WRAP program. And again, for maybe a couple of hundred, they may want it, but what about everyone else? And we've got to wrestle down a lot of answers to our questions with the county before this program sees the light of day. On Part-Time Plus, the county has done zero analysis, zero, in terms of what the potential impact is for people who might want to go part-time and maintain full-time benefits. Again, on its face, looks like a pretty good deal, but not if you're one of the people who's got to pick up the work. And we are not in a position to simply sign off on either one of these programs as of late. We've got a lot of work to do with the county, but we will keep you apprised as we march forward in learning more about both of these. Veronica, anything you want to add?
No, I think you covered it. We definitely have a lot more questions than answers at this point. What we sent out is the extent of the information that we know. When we meet with the county, we'll get hopefully all of our questions answered. But as a surprise to no one, the county rolled something out without planning what it is. We don't even know what the money that they're saving is going to be used for. Is it going to just be thrown into reserves and then there's still no money for raises? We don't even know that at this point. So lots and lots of questions related to that before anything is officially rolled out to everyone.
And for those of you who were around in 2020, remember the first year of the pandemic, the county had the VIP program that also had a component dealing with the retiree medical grant. And so in 2020, the county anticipated 150 people taking the VIP, and 650 people took it. And that created a very obvious dip in the county workforce that took years. And that's not an exaggeration. It took more than 2 years for the county to catch back up to the prior workforce level that the VIP program decimated. And yes, we're looking at this very carefully and strategically, and we are not there yet. Okay. Okay, Tim, what's it look like?
All right, sorry if my face I'm trying to toggle through a lot of great questions. So I'm going to just start going up to the top and hopefully I caught everybody's. If we missed a few, you can either email me directly or info@OCEA. So let's see. So one is just a lot of questions about the retirement. So place retirement back at 2.67 or 2.5 instead of the 1% or and something. It's disgraceful. Somebody did reference it in the chat who's come to a previous meeting 20 or so years ago when during the Great Recession and there was a legislative change that allowed for a lesser retirement formula. Our then County Board of Supervisors locked the County of Orange into the lowest benefit possible over our objection, over our telling them why this would be such a poor decision for the future. Supervisors who were anti-worker, anti-government, such as John Morlock, put the county in this situation. Further, they also passed a countywide measure that if any of you were to receive any enhancement in your retirement, it would have to go to a vote of the Orange County voters. So the county, by actions of a former county board of supervisors, really have boxed everybody in on the current retirement formula. Not to say that we're not looking for creative solutions around it and that the political appetite in this county might be changing than what it was 15, 20 years ago, but we're still not quite there to undo some of those very, very hard to undo measures, laws that are on the books in the county that tie our hands. So going back to some of our proposals, that's why we continue and will continue to have proposals around increasing the defined contribution match, enhancing that in any way so that we can do the non-administrative things that would have to be changed to pump up the retirement. Hopefully that wasn't a lot of gobbledygook, but a lot of it is things outside of our control that occurred by politicians about 20 years ago.
No, Tim, that was very
Okay.
clear and concise.
Say, I see, I'd rather get raises, but I've been seeing lump sums offered by other counties, but usually it's much more. Like LA did 5,000 instead of a lump sum. 1K doesn't seem like enough to me.
We agree.
Yeah, definitely agree. And lump sums happen in bargaining, but they happen at the end. And it's the little bit that pushes you over the edge to get that agreement. It's unheard of to start with just a lump sum as that's the only thing.
That's evidence of how the budget and finance folks have held this grip on the Board of Supervisors, and that's what we're trying to break.
And I do see a few questions around just LA County did go on a strike, got most of their wanted. Is it time for Orange County to go on strike? And I know some folks are also, and thanks, there are a few of you in the chat that I feel like you need to become a steward if you're not already, or if you are, you're doing a fantastic job. So about LA County did go on strike. Do want to point out that they were many, many months past expiration. So they have kind of gone through a longer process before they did eventually make that very difficult decision to go on strike. Before that, though, they did do other escalations like a rally, right? A lunchtime rally and things like that. So we have to escalate before we do anything extreme, call for a strike vote. And it does start by having rallies, seeing the engagement of members at a rally so that then the union leadership and elected leadership in the union can determine, are folks tracking, do we have the internal muscle to execute a strike? Because I'll say, you don't go on strike if not everybody's willing to do that. And also going on strike, to point out, isn't going on vacation. You're being unpaid. It's tense. It's not a thing a union likes to do. It's usually a last resort kind of play. So before we go on strike, we're going to go on rally, right? And if rally doesn't move them, then maybe we got to escalate somewhere else and go on that. To say that we won't go on strike, I'll never not say that, right? Because we as workers, that is our strength in numbers and our ability to withhold our work. That is our power. So let's first leverage our strength in numbers, see if that's sufficient to move them. Because while the strike seems very romantic, if your paycheck's less than what it already is, and you have that fear of going out on strike and the tension from the boss, it's a tough thing. And we want to get to a deal before we have to do such an extreme action. One question about the work week for the 312s. Does that apply to all county workers? Veronica, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I believe that's bargaining unit specific.
No, it technically applies, but it's being added as an option. It doesn't mean that it's approved. It's just being added as an option that you could request it. So it's a little technical more technical than we have time to, but it's just a way to enhance flexibility in areas where it makes sense.
Thank you, Veronica. I know I don't know if we have time to answer this question or if it warrants another comm, which we've been discussing, but around not related to negotiations, but the mileage reimbursement pay for commuting to and from the office. Not
Yeah,
sure.
I can speak to that. I know I saw a question or two in the chat. So yes, there was a change recently. The county underwent an audit and realized that they had been applying their mileage incorrectly. So unfortunately, that did result in a change that mileage is no longer paid if you're starting at a different county work location or if you're coming in on a overtime shift on a normal day off. We looked into it, we reviewed. It's an IRS rule based on the program that the county is enrolled in to minimize kind of the tax impact on mileage. So unfortunately, that is the decision that had to be reached in order to comply with that. Otherwise, they would have to tax you on all the mileage reimbursement. So we did our due diligence to ensure that the county wasn't doing anything nefarious with relation to mileage. So we know about it, and it's unfortunate but the IRS requires compliance on their part.
Thank you. And sorry, I was just going through trying to capture some additional questions as we were going through. I know someone asked for the future, can we eliminate the reverse pickup contribution that are paid a lot by employees? Some folks that are in folks in our retirement system, the reverse pickup is a very complicated formula that relates to the cost of the enhanced benefit. That has been a topic that's come up in the past, but no, too, sometimes the reverse pickup, the way the county views it, right? That ain't how we view it, but how the county views it. They'll basically do a direct trade reverse pickup for base building wage enhancement. And sometimes it's not necessarily in everyone's best interest. And then sometimes too, the reverse pickup as a concept, you think the Board of Supervisors are moving slow now. That's a very complicated topic that sometimes really just starts bogging things down. But the reverse pickup as a benefit topic, it does come up periodically, but this cycle, we haven't touched on it, not to say that we won't in the future. Do you have a question? Are they being transparent about the increases they gave themselves and how they justified it? To answer the question, they are being transparent. The county board, their Some of them are shied away from their own raise more than others, but some of them simply feel that they deserve it, that they work hard, they deserve it. When we say, what about us? They say, there's a lot more of you. And just quite frankly, it's hypocrisy, bad leadership, tone deafness. But do not make any mistake. Veronica, Tia, CB, myself, the rest of your bargaining team, we always let them know and never let that point go unmentioned, particularly when we're talking about all the hard work you guys do. How long do you foresee negotiations will go on for? The next meeting is in approximately 2 weeks. We've been negotiating now at the county, and they're clearly not interested. Does this break good faith negotiations?
So I can answer that one. It's some people hear good faith, bad faith, and just jump to the conclusion that the county is engaging in bad faith bargaining. It's a little more complicated than that, but we are tracking. Our attorney is on here as well if she wants to jump in, but it's an evaluation of the totality of what happens, not just one single action. But certainly we are communicating. I have said at the table, the actions you are taking, county, are verging on bad faith. So they are on notice that we are watching them, we are documenting, and if that's a step that we need to take, that is a step we can take. I don't know that we're there yet, but it's something that is always in the back of our minds.
Thank you, V-Ron. And apologize, trying to do a few things at once here. And I know we're getting up on it, so if folks have to get back to your important ass jobs that serve the residents and keep people alive, we totally understand. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going through questions. We'll be on here as long as folks are on here and we got questions. Let's see. Okay, so I know this might have got answered a little bit in the chat, but it's probably worth unpacking. Veronica, what is the difference between hours worked and hours paid? Which one's better for me?
Hours paid, because hours worked does not account for any time you're off on vacation, anytime you have a holiday, anytime you take a sick day. That extra special pay that you get for bilingual doesn't also get looped into your calculating your overtime rate. So there's a lot of ways where it results in a loss of pay to you. So even though the increase seems like a big increase when you look at just the numbers, the reality, once you take out the hours worked, hours paid, for some members, it's a $12 increase in the whole year. $12. That's how much it is. For others, it might be $100. So it looks like a big number, but once you add in all the other things, it ends up being not worth it at all to lose that higher overtime rate and higher earning potential.
All right. I know we did have somebody put some good stats about Orange County, 6.1 employees per 1,000 residents, lowest staffing, and then also how much the county spends per employee. That was great stats, and I did want to just highlight that because yes, that is actually a set of statistics that we use in our justifications each and every cycle. If this were simply who has a preponderance of the facts on a scale, our facts would outweigh theirs facts. But we're not dealing with facts. We're dealing with people, emotions, politicians, bias. So we have to bring the facts, but we also have to navigate through that kind of messy, kind of personal part of negotiations. As far as RAP, any insight? Why did the county, and I want to reiterate that the county exempt animal services and library workers from the retirement program?
No idea. They communicated to us last week that they had classifications that they planned to exempt from it. We asked which classifications. Those are the ones that they came back with. No justification, no information as to why. That's part of the pending questions that we have when we meet with them.
All right, we do have a question about if I plan to be married and utilize EME soon. All right, you might have to elope. And the new MOU eliminates this. Would I still be eligible if the marriage occurred before the MOU is finalized? So that their proposal, correct me if I'm wrong, is prospective.
No.
It's all
No.
everybody. So it's going
Everybody.
retro?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're proposing to eliminate it from anyone that currently has it.
And candidly, for everyone's knowledge, that means hundreds of OCEA represented county employees would be impacted. So this is not a small pool. It's hundreds of folks, and they have it proposed that it would be completely eliminated.
So even if you go elope, you're not going to get it. So sorry. But we're holding the line on that. Our perspective, everything changes at the table. They back up a dump truck full of money in exchange for employee married to employee, right? You might be like, take the dump truck of money, even if I get the benefit. But as it stands right now, we ain't interested in giving stuff up. Almost said the bad word, right? So, I mean,
Stuff.
what do we decide? We're gonna entertain everything, right? We're not acting in bad faith. We're gonna entertain everything, but we're not gonna entertain crappy ideas for all that long. Let's see. When the discussions start regarding the increase in deferred comp, when you expect it to be resolved, that's the deferred comps is part of our proposal. If we get to a resolution there, it'll be part of a final package. County locations that recently had telework taken away, replaced with the hybrid schedule. Can a voluntary program be discussed where employees can opt in, potentially have a less paid to telework? So do you want to talk a little bit more about just our telework proposal?
So we have a proposal where we want to memorialize it. Obviously, there's jobs in the county where telework is not possible. It's just by very nature of the job, and there's others that absolutely can be done remotely. So the county is not quite at the place where they're want to be super generous with telework. So we're trying to get language in there to get us a start that can only then be enhanced in future negotiations. I can't tell you all that yes, if you want telework, you're going to automatically be approved. There's a lot of consideration that goes into that, but we're trying to get some protection within the MOU so that it's not solely up to the county to determine what changes are made with telework.
And not solely up to a given department head, because currently the county's policy gives each department the latitude to determine at what levels, if any, telework is allowed.
Okay, sorry. And thanks, Sarah. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Please hang out as you can.
And if we didn't get to your question, please make sure you email. So I'll throw it in the chat, but it's info@ocea.org. Just make sure you email and we'll get you a response.
Any retro pay agreed going back to expiration, feel they may be dragging this out since they can save money by delaying. What's our position on that?
Retro on zero is zero. That's what they're offering. Traditionally, the county does not provide retro. That's is CB, how many bargaining sessions have there been? Where there's never been retro, correct?
No, never.
So we're trying to move it along as quickly as possible so that we can get money in your pocket, but we can't move it along if the county is at zero. So that's the consideration that's of what's happening right now.
But always rest assured that our initial wage proposal is to go into effect the first day of the new MOU, which would have been back into the end of June. But as you point out in your question, the county has never paid retro, so it's not a given that we would ever get it, but we do propose our initial wage enhancement back to the end of the last contract.
All right, getting some of the last few, and then we'll wrap it here in the retro. Any discussion about the professional development conference days that are provided to us in the current MOU?
That's not a topic.
Hasn't come up.
Yeah, we haven't had any topic there to enhance, nor does the county look to screw up anything. Someone, OCEA, can you recommend some actions for the membership who are lit up and ready to do something right now? Nabila, I'm calling you out by name because you're the person I'm like, where? Come join us. For those that are fired up, our OCA Steward program, we meet monthly, the third Thursday of the month virtually and at the OCA office. Then also in the tweener time, the first Thursday of the month, we have our union action team, which is virtual. If you just go to ocea.org/get involved, so it's our URL/get involved, you can get on the invite to those. Those is just when we have our strategic planning meetings. We kind of talk about what's going on in between and how we can mobilize our coworkers. Those are ways you can kind of get plugged into our workplace leader program. Specific to this is getting people to commit to turning out on the 25th, or at the very least committing to read their email. I know that doesn't sound very aspirational, just read your email, but you'd be shocked at how many people just aren't consuming the information as it regularly comes out. education is the first key to mobilization. So if folks aren't tracking, then they're not going to be in a position to act when it's time to act. So we have a saying around here at OCEA that's been around for dozens of years, and it's the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. So we got to do some sweating right now to prepare for if we have to mobilize. So join our workplace leader program, and that way you can keep your coworkers bought in, get people to make sure they're reading their emails, opting into our texts, and then putting that save the date on the 25th, right? Well, let's
Yeah.
see some
And another
others.
thing that you can do is come to OCA, come get an OCA shirt, get one of those OCA strong, I choose union signs, put it up at your cubicle. Have some OCA swag with you, wear it loud and proud. Management will start noticing. They'll see, whoa, they're talking, they're communicating, they're all showing off their union pride. So we have those signs, we have t-shirts. Come on in and grab some, even a pen. Go to a meeting with your big bosses and have an OCA pen with you. We have lots of different swag items that you can use and show in the workplace to demonstrate that you're with us.
Thanks, folks. I'm toggling around and we still got plenty of folks on, so we'll keep grinding. Let's see. We saw this come from one of our workplace leaders too. We have CSOs who translate for deputies, talking to criminals, creating reports for the court, and they do not get exceptional bilingual pay. I think I saw someone in there say a good answer. Don't use the service. And I know I'll let you know a little bit on the discussion yesterday. We had a really robust discussion with our negotiating team. You're all public servants. You're wired to help people. You're in this job for a bunch of different reasons. And if it comes to help a client and you know the language, it's in your freaking heart to help that person. But it's messing with the strategy, because when the county gets free bilingual work out of you, they're undermining our position at the table to ask for more. So it's tough though, right? We recognize the reason why you're good at your job and why you're here working for the county is because you care. State employees filed a lawsuit about the end of telecommuting. Can we do the same? The state workers they're in a big fight about teleworking with the governor, the statewide union. I don't think we're at that position yet. We still have a pretty good, robust proposal that we want to get in as contract language. Lawsuits and things outside of negotiations might produce temporary solutions, but we want good contract language. It's going to really put that language into something that cannot be undone by a court appeal.
Yeah. I saw a good question on there about why they can't watch negotiations or read a transcript about negotiations. So a lot of negotiations is our strategic position, and even in what we share, if we make it public to the members, we're making it public to the county, we're making it public to the residents, and all the residents are in Orange County, still fairly fiscally conservative county, may not be on the side of the employees getting an increase. So we're sharing as much information as we can. We communicate what is needed. Our emails have shared quite a lot of information. So if you haven't been keeping up with them, you can go on our website. They're all on there. OCA.org, county negotiations. Every single email that we've sent out is on there, and we share as much as possible without jeopardizing our position at the bargaining table.
All right, and relating to the rally, absolutely. If it's a go, and we'll prepare for it being a go. We didn't close the loop. I'm so sorry. Michelle, do we have the results of the poll? People left and stuff, but we'll
Yeah,
like email it
I was
out.
just waiting for a good time. I
I'm
apologize.
so sorry. I'm sorry, everybody. That's the afternoon meeting. We'll probably remember, but that's no good for you. I'm so sorry, 290 people. Damn, 81% to 19%. So look at that. If 311 people showed up, everyone who said yes showed up.
We're going to count on all 311 that said yes to bring 5 friends.
I'll tell you, if we had to do it, and just the people who said yes on this poll showed up, we would I'm going to say it, if we're past one, we'd scare the shit out of them, all right? So that gives us confidence from Letty, our executive team, our negotiations team. That gives us confidence. I know Veronica is going to have speak a little bit more with their chest when we talk to the county next week, because now we know We got hundreds of people
Absolutely.
who are ready to roll. Yeah, I don't know. Now I'm excited for next week, man. Let's go smack some of these people around. There you go. That's right. Let's get it. All right. Probably missed some really important questions. Just getting all pumped up, so I apologize. Some folks asking about mileage reimbursement. I don't think we had a mileage reimbursement proposal up, do we?
No, I think that was a question about not receiving it in a specific situation. Reach out to your labor rep. We'll look at what happened there.
Okay, let's see. See if there's anything else. All right. I think I got almost everyone. Again, about the increase to deferred comp. Yeah, we're looking for match that increase, but it's part of all of the proposals. It would be part of a final program.
Yeah, currently the current match is up to 2%, and we have a proposal to match up to 3%.
All right, party people. Like I said, the rally, if we got to get this thing pumping, you'll get a rally. We'll be designing one anyway. August 12th, we're going to know. So
Stay tuned.
stay tuned. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for taking all your time. Thank you for all you do for this county. Thanks for being a member of this union, giving us the information we need to help us. You guys rock. This union rocks. This county rocks. Let's make sure that the County Board of Supervisors recognizes all the hard work you do. Any other final comments, my team?
Yeah, I
No.
just on behalf of our president Letty, who had to step into another meeting, just want to thank nearly the 600 people who joined this call. Way to go, way to show your union pride, and the county will know just how engaged you are simply by joining this meeting. And then if we've got a rally up here in a few weeks, we'll show them that as well. So on behalf of all of us here at OCEA, thank you all, and have a good afternoon.